Welcome to Complete Edition, the podcast between a PlayStation Trophy Hunter and an Xbox Achievement Hunter. This is episode 19. I'm your host, Compulsive Nerd, and I'm joined by my co-host, AJ. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing well. Things are chaotic. Everything's started up again. We're at that point in January now where things are getting busy. Games are starting to come out. Things are starting to happen. Works. Becoming more busy as well. But yeah, I'm doing well. I'm excited to do our awards today.
Yeah, I am too, and it's been real weird because, last year I completed 44 games, and it was yesterday, I completed my first game of the year. So I was like, damn, I had a slow start because last year I had my first game done by the 5th or 6th of January, and that was Sackboy, A Big Adventure, and I just was like on a tear from there, and we'll see how this year goes, but I'm playing a really long game, so that's what happens, but yeah, man, like everything else has been kind of coasty lately, just kind of coasting. And I'm excited for this year, though. I got intensely hyped about Horizon. I don't know where it came from, but like I just realized it's next month, and I started thinking about it all the time. I'm like, man, I'm gonna be playing Horizon on my PS5. Like that game looks gorgeous, dude, and on an OLED. Are you kidding me? This is gonna be awesome. So I'm like really, really excited about that.
Yeah, it looks so great. We did for the audience, we did a fantasy critic draft, and the person right before me picked Horizon Forbidden West. But that game, if I could pick any game, that would be the one I'd pick because it's going to come out soon, so it won't get delayed. And then also, I think it's going to get at least like an 85, but it's probably going to get like around 90. I think maybe even above 90, but. Yeah, I think that game looks amazing. The combat looks really great. The environments look beautiful and diverse, and you got like the water looks amazing. Like everything about it looks really fantastic. I mean, maybe the story and the open world fatigue might hit it. That's the only thing I can think of. But other than that, like everything I've seen looks really great.
That was also going to be one of my first picks. It was my number one. I wanted it. I was like, I wanted to do the same thing as last year and like get a game that like hits early, because then you just take a lead. And I think that's really fun. Like immediately you take a lead over everyone, and you can just hold that up for a little bit until you lose. And so I was like, I want to get Horizon because it'll be a really good hit and it'll be early in the year. But I got Sifu, and I don't think it's going to score near as high as Horizon, but I think that it'll do fine for me. But I think I'm going to play Sifu also. So games are coming up and like out soon. I'm going to go ahead and jump into what we're chasing, if that's cool. I'm going to talk about first. Okay, so I platinumed God of War and God of War 2 on Vita. And, I had to do a workaround, actually, because when I started God of War on my Vita, it didn't pop any of the trophies. I started to notice it wasn't popping anything. And I was like, I'm only like 30, 45 minutes into this game, but I'm noticing there's no trophies. And then I Googled it, and people are like, yeah, they glitch out sometimes. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want this. I don't want this right now. Do I even start this game? And then I saw people online super helpful. They're like, turn off the Wi-Fi. Make sure you don't exit the application on the Vita. Just play through to get the platinum with the Wi-Fi off, and you'll be fine. And so that's what I did. I played God of War 1 all the way through, no other games, never leaving. I put the PS Vita into rest mode, and that doesn't affect it. So we kept it clean there. And then I moved on to God of War 2, and I thoroughly enjoyed the games. They're old and PS2 games, and like I just remember as a kid playing them, but not like understanding or paying attention. It just was like PS2, it looks pretty. It's so much better than PS1. And it was just kind of like that time period. And I actually paid attention, I understood, and I'm like learning more about it and kind of understanding who Kratos was and now who he is with the God of War 2018, which is extremely exciting because I'm like getting ready for Ragnarok, but I'm not going to be as committed. I'm seeing a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm going back and I'm platinuming all of them. And it's like, I don't know if I'll do that. I really want to play some of these new games, and maybe I'll go back and do 3 or Ghost of Sparta on PS3 if I have downtime and I don't want to play anything else. But as for now, I'm not planning to chase anything else. But yeah, I mean, I went through both of the God of War games on Vita, and I didn't have any trophy issues. I just had one infuriating trophy with God of War 1, but God of War 2 was a fucking cakewalk. All I had to do was get all the collectibles, and weirdest, coolest thing I've ever seen is like the game was about Kratos getting like he loses his godly abilities, and so it's kind of like, oh, we'll take him away. But Kratos like fights and then overcomes like several different mythological creatures, and it's like he's gaining his godly status back. And by the halfway point, I was through all the collectibles and he was back to like a god, and I was like starting to fucking wreck. And so then the second half was just me paying attention to the story and like not having to like follow guide videos to the next area to the next thing. It's like I just was playing, and that's awesome. Like that's a really smart design to just give you all of the powers back by the halfway point and then let the rest of the game go. And because usually it's like, oh, now I'm a god at the very end, and it's like you don't get to play with all that shit. And it was really cool. And so I got those 2 platinums. It was God of War 2 was my first completion of this year. Last year I beat God of War 1, but I didn't get the platinum until this year, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of drawing the line. 2 platinums, 1 completion. But the second thing that I'm chasing, which I am in love with, is Tales of Arise. And this might be the most colorful fucking game I have played on my PS5. This thing is a light show. And on my OLED, it's absolutely just incredibly stunning. I'm surprised, like, sometimes whenever I play games that are extremely bright and extremely colorful, my eyes, because I play in the dark, my eyes will get like red and bloodshot, and I'll go into the bathroom and I look stoned or I look high, and I'm like, uh-oh, that's not good. But this game is not doing that. It's soft on the eyes, but it's so colorful. Like there's just, there's people with water abilities. This is an anime game, so AJ, I know you love this, but man, there's like people with water abilities. There's people, or there's like fire, and then there's like, typhoons where there's just water and fire swirling in like a tornado. There's, earth and everything, dude. I just can't even describe the amount of colors. Like it is so incredible. And there's magic being thrown around. I love the combat. It's very action combat, but I started to get the hang of it, and I'm really enjoying it. And something I specifically want to talk about, because I am platinuming this game, and it's like 50 to 70 hours, but it could be less if I had the Ultimate Edition, which I think is extremely dirty. But I've had conversations with people that say, it's not necessary. It's just if you want to speed up the platinum, but I still feel like it's dirty. And so I'm playing through this game, and I put it on the difficulty below the hardest because I didn't want to get burnt out too fast, because I'm going to be grinding. I don't want to be doing that. And so I put it on this, and I got over halfway through the game probably. I'm about 35 hours in, and like I said, around the 15-20 mark, I started noticing the difficulty going way up. And so I dropped the difficulty down. But the cool part about this game with the changing of the difficulties, there's no difficulty trophy, so that's really nice, is you're rewarded for playing on a harder difficulty. You get higher combat points, which then builds up, and you get rarer materials and things like that. And it's like it's a score thing. It's like, did you get hit during the combat? It just adds like this little element to the game that I've never seen, and like this balance. And I'm like, oh, I'm grinding too hard. It's like the enemies are just sponges now, and it's not fun. And so I lowered the difficulty to make them less spongy, make my characters die way less, because I got to a point where I just was like, they're sponges and I'm getting hit and dying in just a couple hits. So I like fucked with it. But then whenever I started to free roam and like go back, because you have to complete all the quests, you have to level up all the characters to level like 100, which I hear there's a glitch now, or some kind of like grind where I can get to level 100 in like an hour or two, which I think destroys that length of the platinum, because that 50 to 70 hours. So I'm hoping I'm going to hit that 50 to 60 hour mark and not have to go up to 70. But yeah,
get that weeb game out of there as fast as possible, right?
Absolutely not, dude. I was looking ahead, and if it wasn't for these other games coming out real soon, I'm probably going to go back to back with weeb games. I think I'm going to play Persona 5 Strikers, just to knock it out. I think that's like a 30-hour platinum, so it's not near as bad as Tales. But Tales did something really crazy, which I've never seen a game do, and I totally understand the criticisms, because I thought I fucking beat it. I like literally thought I beat it. It was so weird. I got to this part, and the credits, not credits, but like this intro song starts to like come on. It's really somber. It's like an anime outro, if you've ever seen one of those. It's like a soft, somber song, and then it's just like the characters and this awesome like anime. outro, like literally. And I was like, oh, it's over. That's such a weird ending. And it's like, no, this is the intro to season 2, dude. This is the intro to season 2. You're about to go through another 15 to 20 hours. And I thought I was done. I thought I was about to get like a gold trophy for beating it. I was like, oh yeah, I did it. And then I was like, oh no, I have a lot left. And so I was a little bummed out that I thought I was going to beat it and I didn't. But then I was like, oh well, there's more to play. Let's go. And so I got more excited and started to learn more about the characters, and it's just getting better for me. But yeah, I mean, this is a game that at the Game Awards last year, it won Best RPG, and I wanted to see what it was about and why. And so I've been really thoroughly enjoying it, and the hunt is really fun. Like, I actually got frustrated at story parts where I'm like, damn, I'm locked. I can't leave and go exploring and like do side stuff, because I sometimes I just need a break from like the main story to go dick around, grind up, get some levels so that the next story part isn't so hard. And like I said, you can fuck with the difficulty. So I'll go back to the lower level areas and then pump it all the way to hardest, like the hardest difficulty, and then I'll get more experience because I'm just wiping the floor with things that are much easier. And so I like to like play with it. It was really, like I said, I don't know if I've ever played a game where I fucked with the difficulty so much, but I try to, when I go back to story, I try to put it back on the difficulty right below the hardest, which is called moderate. And I just kind of play it there all the way through unless it gets way too grindy. Because there was this one boss that like defeated me like 6 times, and I was just like, you're just a little too spongy. So I put it down on normal because I would get his health down to just like the last little bit, and then it would get me every time. And I'm just like, just too spongy. I'm spending too much time. Like, this will increase my completion time, because I'm sitting in this fight that's 17 minutes long, and I'm like, I don't want to do that again. So lower it down, knock it out in 12 minutes or whatever, and move on. And so I'm going to continue to play this Weeb game, and that's what I want to do tonight. Actually, I just want to start it back up because I kind of took a break for a couple days. I've been, after work, I work 12-hour shifts, and so after work, sometimes I just don't want to play games, and I've been trying to use my OLED more to watch like TV or to watch movies. And so I went through all the Harry Potter movies, which was something that I did recently, and that's what I will continue to do on those nights. But now that like I have Monday through Thursday off, so I would use this whole week to just game out, just get my chores done, get things done that I need to make sure are done, get bills paid, things like that. Boom, get out, like right back into gaming. And so that's what I'll do tonight after I edit the podcast. But yeah, that's all I've been hunting, because I've only been playing Tales of Arise because it's so long. I'm, like I said, I'm like 45 hours into it, or like 40 hours, somewhere around there, like real close.
Yeah, well, yeah, it seems like you've done a lot quite quickly in that game still, given how long it is. For me, I've been playing a few things. I have a completion this year, but it's in like bad indie games that I don't even really want to talk about. So, in terms of what I've been playing that I have things to say about, I've been playing more Halo Infinite. Of course, it's taken over my life, everything, and there's no way out of it. But I'm close to finishing the first Battle Pass. There's 2 achievements I have left, one to finish the Battle Pass and one to do this game mode that isn't in the game yet, but I think it's going to be added tomorrow, so that's exciting. I might get the completion. It's possible I'm around first in the world, which would be really cool, but I think once the last multiplayer achievement goes live, people are probably going to boost it, because what you have to do is revive 3 teammates in this game mode. So what you could do is you could search with 3 friends and just have them kill themselves as soon as you get in the game with grenades, and then probably you could revive them and get the achievement immediately. So I assume at least someone is going to do that and then get the completion first. But I'll do it legit. I'm not, I don't need to cheese the achievement. So I'm excited for that, hoping that happens this week. And yeah, I've been loving Halo Infinite, hoping it gets new maps and new modes and stuff as well, because, the map pool is pretty small. All the maps are good, but, they get a bit repetitive. Although I definitely have a higher tolerance for that than I think a lot of people. Like, I'd rather have like 8 great maps than like 16 bad maps, or like 16 maps where like 8 of them are okay and then 8 of them suck, because then half the time you're having like a miserable experience. But yeah, it's a great game. I've been playing with some friends sometimes solo queuing, and then also I've been playing Deep Rock Galactic again. So this game got added to PS Plus. It's been on Game Pass for a while, and so me and a few friends have been playing Deep Rock because people are talking about it again, and I really loved it. I loved my time with it, but I never got chance to get as into it as I wanted to. So now I've been playing more and more of it. I've played around 20 hours now, and it's still fantastic. It's still a really great co-op game. And with that, and so Rainbow Six Extraction is coming out on the 20th, which I'm excited to try. But that's a 3-player co-op game, and it looks I don't know, it looks okay. It looks like technically it looks quite good, but in terms of excitement, I don't really feel anything towards it. So I might check it out, but it's kind of a problem because, for my like solo multiplayer type stuff, as in like without playing with friends, I usually play something like Halo. And then for my co-op stuff with the boys, I'm usually playing Deep Rock Galactic or It Takes Two. So it's got like big competition, which is a bit of a nightmare. But also on the 20th, Hitman 3 is coming to Game Pass, along with Hitman 2 and Hitman 1. So I haven't played Hitman 3. Everyone loves Hitman 3, so I should play Hitman 3. Is the other thing that's happening as well. But also, I've been playing It Takes Two, as I mentioned. I'm really close to the end, I think. I'm 10 hours in, 10 hours, 24 minutes. So I've got 17 out of 20 achievements. So I think we're like right there. We're like right about to finish it. It'll be cool to have that as like my first proper completion of the year, because it's a great game. It's fantastic. It spoilers for later, but it jumped up my GOTY rankings pretty quickly because I think it's really, really good. And then finally, I've been playing Nobody Saves the World, which is out when you're listening to this, and it's really pretty good. I think the game is not as compelling to me immediately as Guacamelee 1 and 2 were, but is definitely a good time. I think I'm around 5 hours in, and I'd say it's, I don't know, probably a 7 out of 10 for me. At the moment, I'm hoping they add some complexity to it, but it's a role-playing game where you have like this huge range of character switching that you can do, and you level up different characters, and that unlocks more characters, and it's like you swap from playing as a horse to playing as like a mermaid to playing as a turtle and things like that. And I really like that mechanic. I think that mechanic's really good, and I like the different abilities you have. But I think the combat isn't as interesting as something like Guacamelee overall. Despite that, I think maybe it relies on the gimmick a bit too much. But exploring dungeons in the world, all of that stuff is really quite good. And yeah, I'm having a good time with it. I'm excited to play more of it. And yeah, it's great so far. So I've had a pretty good week. I feel like all the games I've played are like really high quality experiences, which is nice. And they're all quite different from each other as well, which is also quite good.
Yeah, I feel that same thing. Specifically since last year, I started taking recommendations from everyone of like what to play, rearrange my backlog. And, I give power to the Discord to just be like, I'm going to take a picture of the backlog that I wrote down, and I'll tell people to tell me what to eliminate and what to play. And so like, I'm constantly playing quality games, it feels like. It doesn't ever feel like I do have a miss every once in a while. I played Night in the Woods. It was like a story game, but I didn't like it. I actually did not like it, and that's like been the only one that I didn't jive with. But yeah, most of the games that I've been playing are pretty damn quality, which is nice. It's awesome that games can just consistently be this good, and we constantly have new games to look forward to, and you don't have to buy them on day one because you already have all those other games to play. And then if they are good and you see these great reviews, it's like, yeah, let's get on it. But is that all for your games?
Yeah, that's it. That's everything.
Awesome. Okay, so let's switch over to the topic on the table, which is our 2021 Game of the Year awards. And right off the bat, I want to say I haven't played everything. I still want to play Death's Door at some point. I completed 44 games last year, which not all were from 2021. Actually, I think a couple of my awards that I give this year are straight up to games that just didn't come from this year because they were just things that I hunted, which whenever I get to go Game of the Year stuff, I will talk about only 2021, but there's stuff this year that I was very surprised and I'm going to give my own awards to. And I think, AJ, you plan to give your own awards also.
Yeah.
But we're going to focus kind of on trophy and achievement awards and like really fun, interesting stuff that we had. And, this morning I got up and I got up so early. I was up at like 7 a.m. I was like, what is this? And I just got up and I felt good and I was like, let's go. And so I made some coffee and I just started to sit down and like make this list. And I don't know if you've looked at the document, but
Yeah, do you want to start off with like a top 5 or top 3 games of the year and then go into like the more like achievementy and
yeah,
trophy and stuff like that?
absolutely. That's kind of what I'm going to start off with. And then I'll do some honorable mentions because these games didn't hit there, but I really want to highlight them because just because they're not on my list doesn't mean they're not good. It just was such a hard year because everything was just kind of on that great quality level that and they were so different. It was hard for me to choose, but I only did top 4, and my top 4 are not. This isn't in any particular order. It's Deathloop, It Takes Two, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Returnal. And like Returnal is my number 1 game of the year. Like that straight up is my game of the year. I'm like I told you, I'm not gameplay over story, but that game is gameplay over story with more of a interpretive story, but the story is still kind of direct. So it like really compelled me to get to the next world and to play this game over and over, and I just didn't want it to beat me. And it was really fun because they have like statistics, and my friend had beat it and I had kind of waited. I was playing Nier at that time and I was like, I just want to finish this Nier plat and then I will move on to Returnal. And when I got to Returnal, he had played it and beat it, and he was like, this is how many deaths I did it in. And so I'm like, oh, so I'm gonna try to beat this game in less deaths than you. And so I did that. I actually tried to beat it in less deaths than him, and I think I ended up beating the game in like 14 deaths or something, which isn't bad. It was like 14 or 17. But I just was having so much fun with this game. And then it's added like a multiplayer component where, and I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like you'll see where other players have died. And then they're like, if you go to their body, you can like resurrect the monster that killed them, and then you can avenge them. But doing that gets you a huge reward. And if you don't want to do that, then you can just like sacrifice some like this currency in the game and skip that and still get their equipment, which is pretty awesome. And it's just such like a interesting dynamic that the game has. And I mean, I hadn't played anything like that because it's a roguelite. And I'm not huge on the side-scrolling roguelites or the platforming ones. And this one was 3D, and I'd never seen kind of like this genre break out in this kind of way, and it was so encapsulating for me. And I think that the next generation like build of that game really made the game what it was, because you would die, and then before you could think about what fucking happened, you were back, and it's like it's time for another run, and it's just pushing you to be like, let's go. Like we have to get back to where we were and go further. And that's like the whole loop. And it was just incredible. So nothing touched it after that, but I had a lot of fun with It Takes Two. It was such a beautiful co-op game, and Guardians of the Galaxy is in my favorite genre, so I had to mention that. It is a great story game, very good action adventure. The combat is mid, but I had fun because it feels like as you get stronger connections with your characters in that game, you also grow in combat. So it's just building that kind of relationship, and then the gameplay builds with it. I thought that was really cool. But Deathloop was extremely fun, and I haven't played any of the other Arcane games, but I wasn't a part of that like 10 out of 10 hype when it came out. I just didn't even know if I wanted to play that game. I heard there was invasions, and I was like, yeah, fuck that. But then I started to play it and I left the invasions on, and I got invaded for the first time, and then I murdered them, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm still good at video games because I don't play online that much. And then it took about 5 or 6 times before I turned it back to single player because it was starting to halt me. But I like had beat every single person up to that point, and then I was like, okay, so now with the invasions, it's making me start the loop over, and I wanted to get further in the story and then, get towards that platinum. So I was like, I just want to play single player, but I'll leave friend invasions on. So if my friends wanted to invade me, they could. And that is one of the reasons why I didn't want to play it. And then I ended up thoroughly enjoying it because of that. And like, I didn't play it at launch, and I wasn't part of that hype. So I wasn't like, oh, I'm going into this and it's going to be the greatest game of the year. It's going to be the 10 out of 10 that they say. It's not a 10 out of 10. It's maybe an 8.5, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then my honorable mentions are Kena, Psychonauts 2, and Resident Evil 8. Those are all fantastic games this year. I had such a great time with AJ doing the Resident Evil 8 spoiler cast. It was just like such a hype thing this year. The sequel to Resident Evil 7, we didn't know like how it would stack up, and it's just interesting. I don't think I like it more than Resident Evil 7, which is why it's not on my game of the year, but I still would replay it. And thoroughly enjoyed it. And I actually used AJ and Maka's videos to get through the
mercenaries mode.
Yeah, the mercenaries mode at the very end, which is like a arcade game mode. You can try to earn as many points as you can. And I had a blast. I thought they were challenging, but they weren't. Like, you only had to get S and not triple S. And I just was like, okay, so there's like tiers that are above this, and it just makes the game, including its lists, so good. But yeah, those are all of my game of the year of 2021. Thoroughly enjoyed this year.
Yeah, so our list, I don't know if we have any in common. It Takes Two is on your list, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, yeah, so that's the only game that we have in common on both of our lists, which I guess that means that's like the that's the game that we both co-sign as like a kind of like overall thing, I suppose, which is fitting because it's a co-op game with two people. But yeah, so I've got a top 5 and they are in order. My number 5 was really hard to think of. You had 4. I don't know what it is about finding the 5th one, but like there's a lot that I feel similarly about, and there's some that I haven't played enough of. So I haven't played like Guardians of the Galaxy at all. I haven't played like Ratchet and Clank or Returnal or any of that stuff. So for my number 5, I was like, do I want to give it to Life is Strange True Colors? Do I want to give it to Forza Horizon 5? But in the end, I gave number 5 to 12 Minutes because I think that game is kind of underrated. I was sort of surprised by the reviews. I get why people don't like it, or it's very divisive. The story goes in crazy directions, and the point and click style can be frustrating for some people. It's kind of old school in that way. And adventure games and point and click adventure stuff, it can be really, really frustrating. I think it made more sense in 12 minutes than it is in a lot of adventure games. Like, I've played a lot of point and click adventure games, and some of them are just like absolutely ridiculous. You've got like huge environments and you've got to click on stuff that makes absolutely no sense. And it's like cartoony and like, oh, but it's funny. This game is very serious and has like 3 rooms that it takes place in, so I really appreciated that about the game. So from my perspective, it was a lot more lenient and generous than a lot of point and click adventure stuff. So I liked that. I thought the performances were pretty good. Maybe not as amazing as sort of the star power would make you think, although I think James McAvoy and Willem Dafoe are fantastic, especially. I think that the dialogue trees were sometimes a bit weird and that weakens it a bit. But overall, I think it's great. And I think the sort of hidden endings stuff where like people argue about like what the true ending is and how do you break the loop and that kind of thing. Unfortunate with the amount of time loop games that came out this year. But yeah, I really enjoyed it and I think it's great. So that's my number 5. And also I think it won't be on many other people's lists as well, so that makes it more compelling to me automatically, slightly. My number 4 is Death's Door. This is tough. It was 4, 3, and 2 can kind of be in any order to some extent, but Death's Door was originally my number 2 on the list, but it's number 4. I think it is really good. I'd have to replay it. It's definitely my favorite indie game that I played this year. I think it looks beautiful. I think it's really manageable. I think for me as a typically gameplay focused player, I think it doesn't add enough complexity to be higher on the list. And games can be simple and amazing too, but I just mean like the combat loop isn't too satisfying and it never builds upon its mechanics in a way to sort of make it more complicated. And since the core loop isn't that satisfying, it kind of makes it fall down a bit, but it's written quite well. The characters are incredible. The design is great. I highly, highly recommend it to anyone to play. And, as you said, in terms of, this year's been pretty great for games in terms of the sort of wide variety of good games. And so, to even get on this list is, it's awesome. It's a great game. And I highly recommend everyone check it out. I think it got sort of, I don't know, not many people played it. It released on Xbox, but not on Game Pass and as an exclusive, which was quite weird. It would have been good if it got onto Game Pass day one. I think that would have really helped the game. Or if it was like, multi-plat and then like PS Plus or something like that, that would have been awesome. But it seems to have, it's come over to PlayStation now. So that's really great for the game in terms of more people having access to it. And I think people are sort of slowly checking it out as sort of this indie darling game of the year. And it's wonderful. It's just such a fun, relaxing time. It's not too complicated. It'll always sort of give you like slight surprises and make you smile, and it's exactly what you need in like a low moment as well. It's great. Number 3 is kind of similarly to that, happiness that it forces you to feel, is It Takes Two. This game has crazy gameplay variety. The environments are beautiful. The story I'm kind of on. Like, the story's okay. It's probably, I like the voice acting. I've not finished this game. This is the only game on the list that I haven't finished, as mentioned previously. So, maybe it'll change. But in terms of the mini games, the attention to detail in the environments, I love like the open hub structure where you get to these like open areas and there's tons of stuff to explore. These like really fantastic environments. It's the game, when you're playing it, a lot of the time feels like a theme park ride, and I think that really adds to it. Like being at like Disneyland or whatever, it kind of feels like that, which is an experience I don't know if I've really played much like it before in that sense. I think some stuff is simple in the game, but I think that's a good thing, because I think co-op games fall apart. This might be a hot take, but I think co-op games fall apart when they're too difficult and too complicated, because I think when I play a game solo, I usually want it to be super difficult at some point, or at least give me the opportunity to make it quite difficult and master the mechanics. But for a co-op game, you're always going to have like a different skill level and a different level of focus to the person you're playing it with. And as well as that, when you play something co-op and it's really unforgiving, the problem is usually when you fail at a game, it's because you make like one big mistake. Like when you fail something that's difficult, usually it's like, it's going well, it's going well, it's going well, it's going well. Oh, I fucked up, now I'm dead, now I need to restart. And so because of the fact that most games function in that way, where you're sort of smooth sailing until you make a catastrophic mistake and then it's over, playing with more people just sort of doubles or quadruples, if it's a 4-player co-op game, the chance or the likelihood of someone making that mistake. And that mistake happens to anyone and everyone. And so it kind of makes things unsatisfying if a co-op game is really difficult. So I think that is kind of in the back of my mind. I'm like, I wish I could master the mechanics and I wish it could have a meaningful impact, and it kind of doesn't, because the movement is so fluid and so smooth and fantastic, but the game never really expects that much out of the player. But I think it's pretty much put at a perfect level of expectation for the player. So I've had a great time. I've never been stuck in the game, and the puzzles are just right in terms of keeping you smoothly progressing. The fact that it changes mechanics so quickly and each of them is so polished and as fun as the last, and it keeps you guessing and you have no idea where you're going to go next. You have no idea the characters and the environments you're going to experience, and it's just a phenomenal game. It's really just brilliant in terms of everything it does. I can totally understand why it won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. And it's a really hard game to fault as well. It's a really hard game to find problems in, I think. I can't really see much that it does wrong in terms of what it gives you. All of it is just great. So yeah, fantastic. For me, it could be my number 1 if the gameplay did get deeper or more challenging, but also I'm like, even though I say that, I also understand why it didn't. Kind of paradoxically, I totally get it, because co-op games getting sort of like you wouldn't want this game to be like Crash Bandicoot 4 in terms of 100%, because it would be hell, it would be a nightmare. But I love that about platformers. I love the super difficult challenges. I love Super Meat Boy. I love Crash Bandicoot 4's 106%. So I can totally understand why it doesn't do that, and it shouldn't do that. But at the same time, I really wish there was a way for me to master the mechanics and to sort of get that joy from being like super good at the game, or being challenged by like time trials or something. Like I wish it went that extra level further, but I completely understand why it doesn't and why it can't. And so I don't hold that against the game, but I do, when you're making a Game of the Year list, you got to be sort of really, 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 really tough in terms of what games are giving you. And this game is incredible and amazing in pretty much every way, and that's why it's my 3rd pick. So number 2, again, this is a game that has gone like up and down through the year for me. It's always been in the top 5, but it's gone up and down in that top 5, and it's Resident Evil Village. I think this game is amazing. You mentioned before that you don't rate it higher than Resident Evil 7, and I do, so that kind of explains why it's not on your list and why it is on mine, because I think it is slightly better. Part of that probably is gameplay related. 7, I would say, has a stronger story, and 8 has better gameplay. I think some areas are pretty weak. Resident Evil games and being consistent is like, it's their like Achilles heel. They just can't make like a consistent game. And part of that is because they take risks and they make each area be pretty different. And the start of Resident Evil 8 is like, the start's like, I don't know, like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 stuff. House Benevito is pretty incredible as well. Doesn't play very well on replays, obviously, but that's totally fine. Then sort of the swampy area is kind of maybe the weakest area, except for a part towards the end that I don't like at all. But I like the factory stuff as well. I think that's pretty good. So, and I had a lot of fun with the mercenaries mode. It's quite challenging, but it really, again, it's that like extra layer that lets you try to perfect the mechanics and try to get really, really good at the combat in the game. And I really appreciated that. It was nice to do that after beating the game, because as well, it's great for the completion, but kind of a shame that you basically, everyone totally cheeses the achievements that are like the speed run and the hardest difficulty stuff, right? Because you just get like the unlimited ammo weapons and just go through and just destroy everything. So it's good to have that. Like, you've got that, and then you've got the mercenaries mode where you can't cheese it. And so it's quite good that you've got those two playing off each other, that you can get like the easy way out for some stuff, but not other stuff. And it keeps you coming back to the game. And the speedrun is still quite fun, and it's quite cool to sort of blow through everything and know, like, once you understand the map and you know where you're going and you're not blind, it's kind of like a really fun extra playthrough of like, I know all these environments and I can just get everything done super efficiently and like completely defeat and like tear apart the game. I think that's really cool. I enjoyed the story. I think it looks visually stunning. I think the environments are super interesting. I like all the characters. And yeah, the gameplay, the spooks, there's, it really has it all, which is great. So, amazing game. It was really nice to play this game around the middle of the year as well, where not much stuff was coming out. It was quite a quiet year up until that point. So yeah, fantastic game. Love it. Was happy to see it get nominated for stuff and not forgotten. But my number one, perhaps predictably, is Halo Infinite. It's easily my game of the year. The others can, move around. This one won't move around. There's a lot of reasons it's my game of the year. I think as someone who cares about the series and likes the series, this is 343's best game, which means it's also the best Halo game in over 10 years. They nailed the multiplayer to me. And the multiplayer, I got to play the technical previews, and then I got to play the beta, which wasn't really a beta. It was basically just the release of the game a month early. I got to play that, and I was like, this is incredible. I played it with a lot of friends. All my friends are like, this is incredible. The gameplay is so smooth, so fluid. I can't think of a first-person shooter that plays better than this game. Maybe like Doom Eternal. Like, you have to really reach to find it. I played Call of Duty Vanguard. Vanguard absolutely sucks compared to this game. I didn't play Battlefield 2042, but, I've not heard good things about that game. But, no judgment from me at this point because I haven't played it. But it plays better than any Halo game I've ever played. It plays better than the original trilogy. It plays better than Halo 5, Halo 4... Halo Reach, Halo ODST. The weapon sandbox is super good. All the new weapons are really, really cool, except maybe the Pulse Carbine. The Disruptor's awesome. The Shock Rifle's awesome. The Skewer is really cool. That Mangler, like, shotgun pistol that the Brutes have is amazing. The Battle Rifle feels perfect. The Assault Rifle is very slightly overpowered, but, it's only slight. It's better than, like, Halo 3's Assault Rifle, which was just completely useless in every situation, basically. They got the weapon balancing so good at launch. There's just minor tweaks they need to make. The pistol feels amazing. It feels so slick. It feels so smooth to pop headshots with that thing. Just everything about the weapons is really amazing. Everything about the multiplayer in terms of the way the maps are designed, the way the weapons work, the way the equipment's placed, everything is just glorious. I wish it had more maps. I wish it had more game modes. I wish the customization was better. There's so many, again, it's like another like paradoxical pick because there's so much wrong with this game, but there's so much right with it as well. Like its highs are so much higher than anything else, and its lows, they feel like they just ping off of it. I've heard people compare it to almost like a Nintendo game in the sense that it's like, this game is pure fun, distilled into just something that you just take and then you get addicted to it and you just want more and more and more and more. Nothing else delivers what this game delivers. It feels like, almost like a Mario game or whatever, where it's like you play a platformer like that and you're like, there's basically no other platformers that do what this game does. And that's how I feel about this game as a shooter. You play it and nothing else does what this game does. And it's a phenomenal experience. I think the story in Halo 5 was terrible and it dug them in such a deep hole. Halo 5 is like one of the worst single-player first-person shooter campaigns I've ever played. And Halo Infinite, somehow they stuck the landing in terms of the campaign for me. I think going open world was like a huge risk for the series. I really didn't want it to turn into go full vapid open world with like too much stuff to do. I didn't want it to turn into like an 80-hour experience. I think I really like Halo's linear campaigns that are sort of 5 or 6 hours long and replayable. I think that's a really good structure to take, but they were like, the campaign's on its own, it's going to be 20 hours, it's going to be full price, and it's like, uh-oh, this could turn out terribly. It somehow didn't turn out terribly, especially, Halo 5, which did turn out terribly in terms of the campaign. I really enjoy the campaign. I think the collectibles are really thoughtful. I think the forward operating bases and the structure of like you building up like UNSC strength from nothing, I think is really cool. I think that ties into the story quite well. It could have tied in more strongly to the story. I think that would be something they should look to improve on. But I really like the structure. I really like the open elements. I really like the linear stuff as well. I thought the opening 2 levels are fantastic and the last few levels are fantastic as well. I think the story is very The Force Awakens in terms of it's stripped back to basics on purpose. It's a smaller cast of characters. It's introducing people into the series, I think. I think it works really well. I think you show Master Chief's failings and his humanity as well. I think his dialogue is really well written, really well performed. I think it's sort of the most introspective look at his character the series has had. It reminds me so much of Halo Combat Evolved. Halo Combat Evolved is my favorite Halo game ever, so it's kind of like preaching to the choir in that sense. I think that the story has problems with it in terms of, I don't know how, I don't want to get too spoilery, but in terms of, I think it builds some things up and doesn't deliver on them as well as it could have. And I think that's quite unfortunate. But in terms of, I think what 343 wanted to do with this game is, again, Halo 5 put them in such a disastrous pit, and they dug themselves out of that pit, and they basically built a foundation and said, like, here's where the rest of the series is going to go. Here's where we're going to go from here. And in that, it is completely successful. It has been an enormous success for them in terms of doing what fans of the series wanted, in terms of giving a new vision, in terms of bringing things back to basics, in terms of sort of soft rebooting the series. I think it's really, really successful in its campaign. And I enjoyed exploring the world. I think the day-night cycle is really good. It's weird to say that, but like looking up at the ring and looking up at the skybox, and Bungie were always great at their skyboxes as well, and it's something that people love about them in Destiny and in the old Halo games. So it's always like that level of weight of expectations on them. Like the previous devs did this stuff so well, so you gotta like get good at it, even if it's like such a small aspect of the game and that like a lot of people won't notice. The fans will notice, and so you've got to deliver, and they do such a good job of that. I think the gameplay is obviously what most people are coming for in terms of this game as well. And on that front, I mean, it's just so hard to deny it on a fundamental level with how strong this game is for me, because it's like, if this game is the best playing Halo game of all time, then how do you not get it on this list, and how do you not put it at number 1 for me? Because it's like, I know that I love this series so much in terms of what it delivered at its peak, and to bring it back to around the level it was at its peak, and then to go further and to do even better in some ways, to do worse in others for sure as well, puts it in this, again, this paradoxical position where it's like, is it up to the level of when this series was in its prime? And everyone's going to have a different answer to that question. And people's answers to that question will be based on how much they cherished the series in its prime as well, in terms of that original trilogy. Because Halo 3 was like a cultural moment for people, and Halo Combat Evolved was as well. And Halo 2 was, because Halo 2 was like the birth of Xbox Live. Halo 3 was like with the Forge and the custom games, there was nothing like it. It was such a crazy moment in gaming. And then Halo Combat Evolved was like the first time shooters on console were really, really controlling amazingly. So to go up there and to be better than Halo 4, better than Halo 5, better than Halo 3 ODST, better than Halo Reach, and for me, better than Halo 2 is something that I just can't deny 343 did it. They finally did it in terms of being stewards of this series, in terms of knocking it out of the park and bringing Halo to a new generation. I think it's just wonderful and incredible that they did that. But you can still tell while you play it that this game had development issues and this game barely got over the finish line. And that to me signifies that people like Joe Staten, people who got on board of this game and like, we need to ship this game, they must have gone in with like a scalpel and been like, we need to cut this, we need to cut that, we're not going to get it working, we need this, we need that, like we need to just get this into like a finished product and get it over the line. And then it does go over the line, and it's amazing what they get out of it. It's like they looked at all the good ideas and they were like, all the stuff that's amazing, we're going to put it in the package and we're going to get it out, and everything else we'll worry about later. Which is it's so strange how that story seems to be really common with previous Halo games, and also games that end up being loved by critics and fans. Like, you'd think like, oh, this is going to be a nightmare, this is going to totally fall flat on its face, it's going to be one of the worst games of the year, and then it turns out to be great. And then you hear horror stories about like The Last of Us Part 2, you hear horror stories about Rockstar and things like that, and you're like, what? Like, how is it that you have these nightmare dev cycles, and then it's like what you get out of the end of it is so good somehow? And it seems like they managed to pull that off here, for me at least. And yeah, I love this game. I keep playing the game, and it makes me really excited for the future of the series in a way that Halo 5 never did, Halo 4 never did, Halo Reach never did, Halo 3 ODST never did. So, and Halo 3 never did, because Halo 3 was like meant to be the end, right? Like Halo 3 is like, finish the fight. That's Halo 3. So you have to go back so far to find a Halo game that I like as much as this game and has me excited about the future of the series as this game. And I think there was a lot riding against this game, and the development team, people, myself included, were like, does 343 even have it in them? Especially after Halo 5 and after the launch of Master Chief Collection, that it's just such a crazy turnaround for me, for this game and for this series. And I think that they pretty much nailed it, but there's still problems with it, which is undeniable. So it's like, how you fall on that is totally understandable to me. But I think the flip side is understandable as well. Like, I think people loving this game is, it 100% makes sense to me. But people having problems with it makes sense to me as well. So it's a tough one, but for me, it's undeniably my number one.
Are you ready for our own awards?
I wanted to say as well, yeah, part of these are my own awards, but you did honorable mentions, and I feel like these fit into honorable mentions. So if it's okay, I'll go through them, a couple of them now. So I have an award, which is the best game I played for the first time that didn't come out this year, because I feel like it sucks when it's like obviously I'll never have had an award for this game before, right? Because I didn't play it until this year, but it can't count for this year because it never came out this year. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's actually what I was gonna say. Is like, it's kind of weird because I actually have an award for Alan Wake, and it's kind of weird because the remaster came out this year, but this is an old game that did not come out this year, and I really, really loved it. So I totally know where you're coming from. Like,
yeah,
totally
exactly. So for me, those games are Deep Rock Galactic and Sayonara Wild Hearts. I couldn't decide between them because they're both, review scores are kind of dumb, and the way we try to communicate stuff, it's completely imperfect because different games deliver so many different things that it's like, how do you put them against each other, right? Like, it never makes sense for me to put, like, even in our top 5, fundamentally, it doesn't make sense to put two games that are so different up against each other, because that it's just totally incompatible, the comparison, right? Like, how do you argue like Football Manager versus like GTA 5, right? Like, they're just not all similar games, and if someone likes one more than the other, like, there's no way to sort of mesh those together. So Sayonara Wild Hearts and Deep Rock Galactic, they both do what they do so well. Sayonara Wild Hearts is this like music rhythm game that's so simplistic but so personal and emotional, and has an absolute banger soundtrack, an original soundtrack that's fantastic. Also, another thing about Halo Infinite that I love as well, the soundtrack. Just such a phenomenal soundtrack. And the audio design generally, just really stellar, superb. But yeah, anyway,
I
Sayonara
agree
Wild
with that
Hearts.
too.
Yeah. I've
Really good
completely forgot
music.
to mention it somehow.
Really good music.
Yeah, the music of that game is just impeccable, and the way it's delivered is so great as well. Yeah, even like being in like a multiplayer lobby in Halo Infinite, it's like it starts playing bangers at you that aren't in the campaign soundtrack, and you're like, what the fuck? Like that you still got more like amazing music to throw at me. And yeah, I love the soundtrack to that game, but I also love the soundtrack to Sayonara Wild Hearts, and it's so personal and emotional and brilliant, and the gameplay meshes with the music, and the music is about the story, so you've got story, gameplay, music all intertwining at the same time, and it blows your mind, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And the story's kind of like implied instead of being like thrown in your face. Well, it kind of is thrown in your face in like this really bombastic way, but also weirdly understated as well. So fantastic indie game. Deep Rock Galactic, in terms of mechanics, in terms of environments, in terms of progression, in terms of everything you want from a multiplayer game, Deep Rock Galactic has it in terms of in terms of a cooperative multiplayer game. Yeah, it kind of feels like an evolution on Left 4 Dead, even though it's not like Left 4 Dead, which is kind of why it's an evolution, I guess, or like a revolution on it, I suppose, in terms of just giving you something totally fresh, totally new, and something that everyone talks about in a similar way in terms of this is like a almost a genre defining cooperative game, which is so fantastic to see. And by that I mean in terms of the way people will think about co-op games feels different after you play Deep Rock Galactic. And even something like It Takes Two, I feel like doesn't necessarily do that, in the sense that, stuff like Portal 2 already came out and were kind of, similarly fantastic. But Deep Rock Galactic, it has like procedural generation, even though the environment's fantastic and the amount of different hazards you get, it's just completely mind blowing how much charm is in this game, how even the hub area has so many tiny details. You can buy drinks for everyone, you can change your wardrobe. Even the cosmetics and the battle pass are totally free as well. You don't have to pay money for even cosmetic stuff, which in today's day and age is crazy, especially for like an indie game where you feel like the devs could really use that extra money. It's so charming, it's so unique, it's totally going its own way and pulls it off masterfully. The weapons, the variety in the classes, the way you can synergize with your teammates, the way you build off of each other, the way that the gameplay challenge reminds me of Minecraft in the sense that it's like it's not just a shooter, it's an exploration game. It's a game where you see something super high up and surrounded by hazards, and you're like, we need to get that. How are we going to get that? And you sort of plan it with your friends. You sort of feel like an engineer. You feel like an architect. You feel like so many different things that you're not used to feeling like when you play this game. And you can fail hilariously. You can succeed in miraculous ways. It's got it all. It's really, really great. So those two best games I played for the first time that didn't come out this year.
Those are really good. I really want to get to Deep Rock Galactic. I do want to try to chase it, but like maybe put it on like a back burner game. Like I have nothing else to play and I'll just play this with my friends and try to get that platinum eventually, but it's like over 200 hours. But I still want to play that game real bad. And then I'm going to go ahead and start with my most memorable list, which is from Kena Bridge of Spirits. This is a game that is very pretty. It's an indie game. It was that studio's very first game, and I just remember going around and I wanted to collect all the little guys, and I wanted to get all the chests, and I wanted to complete all the challenges, and I loved it so very much. And I remember at the time there was a glitch to surpass the hardest difficulty, and you could just get the hardest difficulty trophy without playing it on the hardest difficulty. And because this game was so interesting to me, it feels like an old PS2 game but modern, and it's so hard to explain how they perfectly crafted this game. But it felt like I was having an easy time, and then I would get to a boss fight, and some people will say like, oh, it's a difficulty spike, but it wasn't really. It was just, instead of tons of enemies coming at you at once, it was just one big enemy. And that really, it had these levels of building up to the boss where it's like, this is the first mini boss, and then the next mini boss is a little bigger, and that last boss is just gonna tear you down. And that's what it did. And like, it was hard, but I enjoyed it. And then I was like, now I want to understand the hardest difficulty, and I really want to earn it myself. So I went through and I did on the master difficulty, I I completed the game and I was like, this felt good. Like, I will remember this because it was so challenging but so pretty, and it looks like a kid's game, and it just didn't treat me like it was a kid's game, or it didn't treat the audience like it was a kid's game. It was really fantastic. It's a somber, sad game. It's about the bridge of spirits, and it's something that I went through the year with. Like, I looked back, and every time someone said they were going to play it, or they were like, what should I play? I'm like, Kana. Kana is a really good game to play, and if you play it harder. Like, play it on a harder difficulty, because it'll kick your ass, and you'll be like, it's so cute. Why is it so hard? And that, like, they had a really tight parry window, but I really loved it. But yeah, that's my first award, is the most memorable list, and it goes to Kana Bridge of Spirits.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's a great pick. For me, I've got to go next. I'm gonna go with a couple of kind of pseudo honorable mentions. So I might rattle these off in quick succession. So first of all, the most interesting game I didn't play, which actually I had this down before I heard your list. I'm totally not copying your list, but it's Returnal. That game stands out to me as it seems like something that would be really up my alley, that it would have contested for Game of the Year for sure. It looks really interesting. It looks great. I don't have a PS5. I didn't play it. I want to play it. It looks awesome. So, there you go. Congratulations, Returnal. Most interesting game I didn't play. Then got another one. Best game that I watched. So I consider this ineligible because I didn't play it in terms of my actual Game of the Year list, because I actually, obviously, it'd be ridiculous if I gave, Game of the Year awards out to games I haven't even played. Who would do that? So the best game that I watched was Inscription. Inscription is this indie game. It's kind of like a meta game in a sense, where you are playing cards on a table, but you're in a cabin, and you're also able to walk around the cabin and explore, and it's got like a spooky mystery aspect to it. And it's got a really, really creative story. It's, there's sort of videotapes you find about people talking about the game and all of this kind of weird shit going on, and you're trying to get to the bottom of it, and you're freaking out, and it's got like a surprising amount of variety in terms of the type of card game and the environment you're playing, and the different mechanics that get introduced and added in. It's really fantastic. And so that's the best game that I watched, but, I didn't play it. Then I also have the best games that I barely played, and that has to go to Psychonauts 2, and maybe Forza Horizon 5, although I've played more of it since I wrote this, so maybe not. But Psychonauts 2, I played like 2 hours of it, and I really liked it, but I fell off, something else came out, and I played that instead, and then I never went back to it. So that's, similar to Returnal and Inscription, where it's like, they probably would have been up there if I played them more. So yeah, those are sort of all of my most honorable mentions that could have easily been in contention for my top 5.
Those were pretty good. I like your Psychonauts answer, because that's a good game. It's a really good game, and it was on my honorable mentions also. It's so creative, such a creative game. But this award is called the Fuck You, I'm Not Going Back to Get These Trophies, and it goes to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The challenges that they added to that game are a little glitchy. They seem half-assed, and I'm like, I'm not going to do this. Like, I tried to do it, and I did it for about 5 hours, and I was like maybe about halfway through, and I'm like, for one fucking trophy, I'm not going to sit here and struggle. And I got like to one part that I could not beat. So I was just like, they want me to basically have RNG luck to kill these enemies. Cause like there's a chance that on a parry that it'll light on fire. And it's like, then I have to catch this certain number of enemies on fire. And then I have to kick this certain number of enemies off of the ledge. And it's like, but there's only like the exact amount of enemies on the level. So I have to be perfect. It's like, you want me to be RNG perfect? Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck that. I'm not going back. And so that's what goes to that. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I love Valhalla, but those are some shitty trophies.
Yeah, oh my god. Yeah, I'm gonna go, you've completely inspired me. I'm gonna go, the worst game I completed award. It goes to The Medium. The Medium sucks. The Medium, it's also gonna win most balance beams, so congratulations, The Medium. And it's also going to win most forgettable video game. So congratulations, a big winner. But The Medium actually has just won 3 awards, so it's won more awards than anything else. So in that sense, it's very impressive for that game. Perhaps the only impressive thing about the game, and that's a shame. But yeah, it
Well,
sucks.
rolling on the negative stuff, I will go ahead, and this one's gonna piss off Edwin, but it's not a bad game. Not a bad game. Near Replicant is not a bad game, but it does have the worst list, and I'm gonna just go ahead and give the worst achievements, and they both of the worst achievements of this year came from this list. So I was like, this is all bundled into one for them. It's like the worst list and the best or the worst achievements, and that would be, there was a trophy that was specifically tied, and it was called Legendary Gardener. And you had to successfully cultivate this legendary flower. And you had to grow these flowers in real time. And I think it ended up taking me like 3 full days, but I was using like time manipulation with the system, because you could like plant these seeds, and then there's like a chance, like an RNG chance of them cross-pollinating and then creating a different colored flower. And you have to get this like legendary flower is like a extremely rare white flower, and there's like violet and pink and red and yellow and orange and all these fucking colors, and it's just like this white one that you have to get. And it's like you had to plant all these seeds, which was a tedious task and took a long time, and then you had to skip forward time, like save, skip forward time, load the save, and then the flowers would be like sprouting, and you could tell like what color they were going to be. And then if you didn't have it, you just go back. You load the save before and like redo the time, and then you go through and you pick up these, like you unroot the seeds and replant. And then you do this until you get the flowers you want, and then you start cross-pollinating those, and then you like alternate. So red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, or red, yellow, red, yellow, until it gives you what you need. And then I'd have a bunch of those, and what I would do is I would just plant them so that they would grow, and then there would be more seeds cultivated from those flowers, and then you could cross-pollinate again with all of those. But it just sucks. That sucks. That to get a platinum, to be able to have to like work with like real time, is just so dumb. I don't know what they were thinking with that, or wasting their time making that mechanic. Like the game's good, but like why?
Yeah, I hate stuff like that. I mean, you say like with a Near Replicant, like I really want to play that game, right? Like I really want to play it, but the achievement list is so bad, and that's what's been keeping me away from it, because I'm like, I know I will have to get all the achievements because our brains are broken, but so it's like I want to play it, but I'm like, it would be so easy for me to play it if I didn't have to do that, like I would have probably already played it and beaten it if I didn't have to do that, but because I do have to do it, I'm like, I'll do it eventually, but someone's got to send me a copy, or like it's got to be on like a super deep sale or something, because I can't. It's pretty low on the backlog, in other words, because of how stupid that achievement list is, and also how stupid the side quests apparently are and all that stuff. So it's like, it's not only the achievement list, it's the fact that everything like that's around the main story that isn't the main story sucks. So yeah, sorry to Nier fans. I am also a Nier fan, so don't take this as a condemnation on the series.
Right. And then there's another one in this same game, and like they share the worst because they are both equally bad, but there's like this trophy called Forging Master, and you fully upgrade the 33 weapons in the game. And to do this, there's several places where like I needed to load the save, run to the beach, pick up the artifact, and it's RNG, and it's like, did it give me what I want? No. Load the save, do it again, load the save, run to the beach, pick it up. Did it give me what I want? No. When it does, you save, then you load the save, then you run to the beach, and you do it again because you need like 5 to 6 of these stupid, rare things. And it's like, I just put on podcasts and listen to things and just spent like a couple days doing this. And I'm just like, why do I do this to myself? Which I have another award that's called that. And I'm actually going to go ahead and move on to it because I'm done with them. I'm done. I've got the platinum on Nier and I like the game, but that is a shitty list. It's a really shitty list. And then it's, why did I do this to myself? And this could have gone to a couple of games, but specifically I'm giving it to Knack 2 because I did it for the meme. And I don't know why. I don't know why, dude. That game's not that good. It's very much a child's game, and it was way longer than it should have been. I don't know why it was so long. It was only like 15 hours to platinum, and it was way easier than 1, but I don't know why I did that. It was on sale, I think.
That's too long to be playing a bad game. I am surprised it is that long because it's a platformer, and platformers are usually pretty brisk. But
yeah, but go Mark Cerny. Good for you. I could. That's what I was thinking about the whole time. I was like, Mark Cerny directed this. It came out of his brain. Like, I just got to keep going.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Yeah, I think next I'm gonna go for my longest completions. So I've got 3. Darkest Dungeon, 157 hours, Yakuza 0, 137 hours, Halo Infinite, 102 hours, and I'm not done yet, so it's probably gonna stay in third. But all of them are great, which is nice, right? Because it would be it's kind of an award because they kept my attention for that long and I enjoyed my time with it. I talked before about how super long completions kind of suck, and so I'm more selective about the games that I play because I know going in like how long it's going to take me to complete them or how long it takes people on average to complete them. So it's a testament to their quality, the fact that I will play Darkest Dungeon for 160 hours or Yakuza 0 for 140 or Halo for 102. So those games, all great games. Would I recommend the completion for any of them? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It's difficult, right? Like, it's really hard to recommend to someone you spend that many amount of hours doing something, playing something. So it's tough. But those games, to me, I'm proud of those completions, and I'm proud of those games. Those games are awesome. So congratulations.
Nice, dude. And I have this award too. I honestly argue that it's the longest and the hardest because sometimes it just feels like when I look at a game and I see the completion time, for example, the 200 plus hours for Deep Rock Galactic, I'm like, oh God, it's so long that it's like, it's going to be hard to get there. Just to get to that point. So it's not like, oh, it's the most difficult. It's just like, do I want to play a game that long? And will I be able to? And it went to Persona 4 Golden because it was my longest platinum. It took, well, actually on PSN profiles, it says that it took 5 months and 6 days, which I'm not counting in-game time, but it was definitely a game where I started like early in the year and I didn't finish it till later in the year. And I just remember that whole journey. And I'm like, damn, I can't believe I did that. It's definitely the longest game that I took to complete this year. And it was difficult. There was like some dialogue in the game that was RNG, and you had to hear like a certain number. I think it was like 300 lines of dialogue that are unique from one of the characters. And I was like, oh no. So I like spammed buttons and I tried to get them to talk and say lines as much as possible in different scenarios. Say someone was downed or someone was injured or someone was, had like an ailment or different ailments. Then I was like, okay, this is a time to spam it and see if I can get some different lines and hear, 4 different variations of that same thing. And I was like, am I going to get this trophy to pop? And I did on my first playthrough. And after that, it was much less stressful, but that was definitely a big one. But yeah, it was very long, and I had to turn it down to easy for one of the final bosses because they were freaking hard. They were ridiculous. I was like going on normal, and then all of a sudden, I just got bitch slapped. I got fucking bitch slapped. Like, just wrecked. And I was like, I can't even do anything here. I wonder what to do. And then I like looked up like hints and stuff like that on Reddit and forums everywhere. But yeah, Persona 4 Golden gets my longest platinum for sure.
Yeah, I would never. I don't know. I mean, I guess we got similarities in terms of the Persona stuff and the Yakuza stuff there. Yeah, I mean, yeah. No matter what you do, those games take a super long time. I think next I'm gonna go for the I Can't Believe I Don't Hate This award, which goes to Life is Strange: True Colors, because I thought this game was going to be terrible. I thought this game was going to be an absolute nightmare. I was getting ready to dunk on the game. I was like, oh, I'm playing this early. I'm playing it before anyone else. I'm going to have all the memes ready to go. I'm going to be like, boom, 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 boom. Like, absolutely, napalm strike everywhere with hot takes. But no, I actually really like that game. It's got a really good story, really well written, well acted. It doesn't have much gameplay to it, but it doesn't try to, so that's fine. But yeah, great. I don't know if I'd say great. Good game, at least. It depends on where your barrier for great is, I suppose, because I do think it's in that like good, great range for me. So yeah.
I think that there's a place for it. If you're recommending somebody a game that they don't want like intensive gameplay, but they want like a story, this is it. This is one of the greats to just throw at them and be like, yeah, go give this a shot because you're going to enjoy the story. You're not going to be intensively like challenged because it's not a challenging game, but you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd still put it maybe one level below great, because I think about it like, I feel like in a few years time, I'm probably going to forget about it. you know, like
Oh
to
yeah.
some extent. Like I don't think the characters are so iconic that, you know, it's not like, I don't know, you're not like I don't feel, you know, opinions or weight to the characters like I would about, I don't know, Nathan Drake or, you know, Joel or whatever, like, you know,
Right.
so I'm sort of like, you know, I'm not going to write about it or think about it in years to come, but it's still pretty damn good. So yeah, congratulations to Square Enix and Deck Nine.
That's a pretty good award. I like that one. I kind of have some similar. I'm gonna just go ahead and with never thought I'd platinum one of these, which is not from this year. This is another award where it's not from this year, but and so was Persona 4 Golden. But I never thought that I'd ever platinum an MLB game. And not only did I platinum one, but I purchased MLB 21 because the list is much easier. Like the MLB games have always had shit lists, like the worst RNG. You got to catch a baseball in foul territory, and like it's like how long do you have to play the game before that random chance happens? Like it just is one of those things where it's like I love baseball. It's one of my favorite sports, if not my favorite sport. And it's like I wanted the platinum. I wanted one baseball platinum on my list. That would be everything. And I got one this year and it was awesome. It was actually pretty hard. It was pretty difficult. But it wasn't anything RNG related. It was just like I had to beat the AI with only scoring, or I had to score like one run in every inning, and that's hard. I don't know. It's just they made it hard, and I got it. I got the platinum, and I felt like I never thought I'd get this platinum. So that's what the award goes to. It goes to MLB on Vita. It was 2014, I believe.
Yeah, that's a crazy game and crazy platform. Like crazy game platform combination to have a platinum for, I feel like. Yeah, for me, what am I gonna go with next? I mean, it depends on whether I want to like end stuff toward negativity or positivity. I don't know. I feel like both of these are quite, I don't know. Yeah, I'll go with the I didn't expect this to play so well award, which goes to Outriders, because the gameplay in that game is really, really good. And it looks like a generic third person shooter, and it looks like Eurojank, and it's published by Square Enix, and it was Game Pass day one. So it was like, this game is going to suck, and the story's bad, and everything about it looks kind of bad, and people are memeing about it and joking about it, and it's like, this looks bad. And then you play it, and you're like, you can't even explain it, but the way the game feels and the way you move around and you shoot and you use abilities, I really enjoyed. I think, unfortunately, the game still isn't brilliant. I think it's like a 6 out of 10 game. I enjoyed it, but it's slightly too long. The enemy variety isn't good enough for the length of the game. The environments are a bit dull. I mean, they have variety, but they don't really have much to do in them. You just sort of walk and shoot stuff and walk and shoot stuff and walk and shoot stuff. And the walking and shooting is super entertaining and good, and it's like, thank God that it is, right? Because this game would be a total disaster if it wasn't. But yeah, so that's still, you know, there's kind of some negativity, some positivity there, but I never thought it would play as well as it did. And I was making clips of this game and I was thinking, this is awesome, this feels great to play. It's just a shame that sort of everything else around it is kind of stands out as being pretty weak.
Yeah. I mean, I only have a couple left, but I most of them I think are positive. Let's just go to the most surprising. This was Alan Wake Remastered. This was really surprising. I think you recommended that I play this, and I saw that the trophy guide wasn't too bad. And I was like, okay, I will play this. And then I ended up loving it. I'm very sad that I missed it when it came out, but I'm glad that I played it because it's just a testament to how old games can still be great. And that's what it was. It was just really fantastic. I love the atmosphere, really great on the OLED. Just cannot wait for the second one. And since they announced that the second one is going to be like survival horror, like more like very horror, I guess Alan Wake wasn't technically a horror game. So I'm like, oh, hell yeah, sign me up for whatever they're doing. And like the fact that it's tied to control and all this stuff, like I am fucking pumped about that. It is so much more exciting. And it's such an interesting perspective to go into Alan Wake. And the whole time I'm playing it, I'm like, I know this is an altered world event. I know that this agent was tied to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or of Control, not investigation, but the Federal Bureau of Control. And I was like, this is just magical how they made this game so long ago. And then we're able to write a game that ties everything into Alan Wake. and then show snippets of what's going to happen with Alan Wake. And like, man, I was just enthralled this year by that stuff. Like all of it. It had me wrapped up. So it's the most surprising thing I played this year by far.
It was great to replay it for me as well. I got the completion. It had been a long time, and when it's been so long, I think it was around 10 years since it came out. And when it's been so long, you start to, at least I do, doubt yourself in terms of like, I haven't replayed this game in a long time. Gaming's moved on. Maybe does this game still hold up? And I think there are some games where you go back to them and you're like, this. I used to think it was amazing and now it's only okay. Or, I used to think this was pretty good. Now it kind of sucks. But Alan Wake held up for me. I enjoy it more than Control. I enjoy it more than Quantum Break as well. And yeah, I'm really glad it got a remaster that Remedy feel so passionate about that IP and sort of really back that game as like one of their best, that, and have that other opportunity to sort of get it in front of people again. And with Alan Wake 2, it's super exciting. So yeah, great award. I don't have an award for it, but I'm really glad you do, because we get to talk about how great it is again.
Yes.
For me, I'm going to go with underwhelmed but still great, which goes to Hades. So I like this game a lot, but again, for context, I played this game in 2021, came out in 2020. It won a lot of awards in 2020. A lot of people, it's their game of the year for 2020. It was like the indie hit of the year for 2020. And so that puts a level of expectation on the game. As well, it's a roguelike or a roguelite, and I've played a lot of roguelites and I love that genre. So for me, it was kind of, and it's not necessarily, I don't know if I'd say fair. I mean, but also I don't live in a bubble, so there's no way to avoid, people talking about games, obviously. So, it wasn't like an intentional, like, oh, I'm going to expect so much out of this game. Just more that through, I guess, cultural osmosis, you just sort of pick up things that people say about a game and, from looking at awards and things like that. So by the time I played the game, I was kind of underwhelmed by it, and I sort of went through an arc where it was like, at first I was kind of into it, and then I got like super into it through the mid game, and then I beat it quite quickly in terms of completing a run, and then going for the final achievements really sucked. And I don't really hold that too much about against the game. It's fine, but before I even got the final achievements, I was kind of like, I could finish the game here, and if it gave me the full 1,000, I'd be done with it. And that's after about 30, 40 hours. Like, I'd be fine with like, okay, that was pretty good, and I'm not going to play it again. And for me, the best roguelites of all time, after you do everything in them, you're sort of like, I want to keep coming back. I still want to keep playing it because it's so good. That's sort of, to me, that's the hallmark of like a game that is like truly spectacular. Again, we've, people talk about, there's games where like, I love the game Portal and I love Half-Life, and I can replay those games even for the story. I can replay them because I'm like, the dialogue was so good. Max Payne 3, I love the dialogue in Max Payne 3. I can replay that game again and again and again, and it doesn't get old to me. Halo Infinite, I can keep coming back to the multiplayer. I can keep going through the campaign and find it really, really fun and do different things, even after I've done everything in that game. Hades never gave that to me. And so, sort of, by that metric, it always, to me, it will be a great game, but it won't be a masterpiece. It won't be a truly special game. It will just be a great game, which, like, that's fantastic. It doesn't have to be anything more than that, and it's more than a good game. It's a great game. So, but there's something just underwhelming about it slightly, because I'm like, a lot of people, this game was their first roguelite as well. And I think there's maybe some level of, bias towards that. I don't know. It's tough to evaluate, really, because everything that game does, I think it does do quite well. So, but part of me is like, I wish other games in the genre got that level of like mainstream appeal, or pseudo mainstream appeal, I suppose, because I think there's better games in the genre, and I think better games in the genre came out before then as well. So I've got like a complicated set of thoughts on Hades, but I was really glad it came to other platforms and that I got a chance to play it, and I loved my time with it mostly, but I can't deny that I felt slightly underwhelmed by it, despite how great it is, and how great it clearly is.
Yeah. Okay, so I have 2 remaining ones, and I might just throw one of them right in and then finish with my last one because it'll be short.
Yeah, I have one left, so this should.
Okay, that'll work perfectly then. So I made a best character award, and I gave it to the Duke from Resident Evil 8. I think that character was extremely mysterious. He had a bunch of lines that I really enjoyed. I think that his cooking and like the way that you get abilities from him and his shop just randomly appearing throughout that world was fantastic. Just this character I could not get over. Like every time I saw him, I was like, yes, it's the Duke. Like I get there. I'm getting there. And so I definitely wanted to give an award to the best character. And then the best trophy and achievement, which is my last one. And it goes to Sackboy's Big Adventure. I don't know if Sackboy came out this year. I think it came out last year. But I earned this trophy this year. And right at the beginning of the year, because I'm pretty sure Sackboy came out like the very end of last year, maybe on Christmas Day, honestly. It was like very late last year. And it's called String It Together, and it's get a gold on the Knitted Knight Ultimate Trial. And the reason that I wanted to highlight this is because this trophy is really hard because there's 15 stages that you have these platforming challenges and you need to complete them in a certain amount of time, and you need to find like these collectibles that open up the gates to get into them to complete them. And then so you get all 15 unlocked, you beat all 15 with gold, and then it's like one last one, a 16th. Do all of them and don't fail. And it's hard. It's very difficult. It takes about like an 8 to 10 minute run, I think. And there's spikes coming out, there's moving platforms, you're rolling, you're jumping, there's enemies coming around, like you're on really skinny like walkways and you're rolling and you're jumping and you're bouncing, and it's just like, it's such a hectic, chaotic mess. There's platforms that are flipping upside down, so you have to like time your jump right so that you don't get flipped down and then die. And it's just like, there's so much going on and it's so difficult. My hands, like I was doing it so much, my hands were like cramping and they were hurting. And I'm like, oh man, I haven't played a game like this in so long where it makes my hands hurt because I'm trying so hard. But I ended up getting it. And then, I just saw other people who are like, I'm about to attempt this. And it's like, everyone's like, you can do it. It's like, it's going to push you. And it's so hard, but it was so much fun to get. And that's a good trophy. That's a good one where it challenges the player, but it's attainable. And that's because right at the end of the stage, it is get a gold. So it's not just completed it. It's get a gold. So you're hurrying, and when you hurry, you make mistakes, and that's like the whole point of the trial. But at the very end, it's like, oh no, I'm past the gold time. But then they have like a bunch of these. Since you made it, they have a bunch of these time takers. So it'll like minus 5 seconds, minus 10 seconds, minus 5 seconds, minus 1 second. And you're just like picking them up as you go. And it can get you below that gold time, which is really nice just for getting there. But if you get there really early, then you have no problem. And it's like I said, the time is not exactly the most hard part. The hard part is the course. So just a really fun trophy and achievement that I wanted to bring to the show.
Yeah, I thought of an extra award just now on the fly. So I want to
Awesome.
do it quickly.
Do it.
I don't know what to call it. Maybe like just the fuck you award or something, or like I hate you award, or I want to stick a spoon in my eye award, or something along those lines. But it's to games that have achievements that have gamer score that is like ends in like a 6 or like a 3 or like a 1 or a fucking 2 or whatever, or like an 8. Like games that don't end gamer score in 5s or 0s. And so a few games come to mind for me. Unfortunately, because I've heard it's great, Cyber Shadow has this problem. Then so does Eldest Souls, and so does the Quake remaster. So there you go. You guys win the fuck you, I don't want to play you, stupid game, bunch of clowns, clown award or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of our awards, dude. And I think I'm going to end it.
Hang on. I've got one more then.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Because like I didn't have any more.
Yeah, best meme game that isn't actually a joke goes to Rain on Your Parade. It has become kind of a joke game. I shout it out, I shill it all the time wherever I can. But it's actually a really fun game, a really cute indie game, a lot of fun. It's like a meme, but it's also not a meme. Like it's not like Bad Rats is a meme where you like gift people on Steam Bad Rats because it costs like 60p or like $1 or whatever, and you give it to people and it's absolutely terrible and you just hope they play it and make themselves miserable. it's kind of a meme in that sense where you like say like, oh, Rain on Your Parade, play Rain on Your Parade, recommend Rain on Your Parade. But it's like actually also a good game. So congratulations. Unbound Creations did a great job with it. There's DLC for it that I still need to play. They made a joke about like NFTs and that they're not going to do that. And it was quite funny as well. They seem like they're really on the ball with that kind of stuff. So good job.
All right. Well, that's the end of the episode. I actually didn't even bring a trophy or achievement of the week because it's the end of the year. It's it. That's it for that 2021. And we'll be back with our next episode in 2 weeks, which is extremely fun. But any final thoughts, AJ?
No, I think we had a great selection. I think we honored in some way a lot of the major, pretty much all of the major releases of the year. So that's quite cool.
Yeah, we really did spread them out and gave awards to lots of different games, including games that weren't even from this year. And sometimes I think that gaming is an encapsulation of that entire year, no matter what you play. And that kind of brought out, but we got everything like really highlighted, and that's really awesome. Plus, I really actually liked your awards, the awards that you brought. I thought they were really fun. So
yeah, yours were great too, and it was a great discussion, I think. So yeah, we got to do this next year.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to become an annual thing for us. But yeah, everyone, thanks for listening. Happy hunting. Peace out.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to Complete Edition. If you like the content, consider supporting us on patreon.com/completion club. If you have any questions or would like to reach us, email completionclub@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to Complete Edition.